This month's video is a pretty chill one. I'm going to show you guys some of the pottery making process, and I didn't have time to film the entire process from beginning to end for one piece because it does take quite a bit of time. There's a lot of drying time in between. So you'll see me working on different pieces at different stages throughout this video. I'm still pretty new to pottery, but I thought it would be really fun to make some handmade goodies for the people that I love. There's a pottery class in my area that I attend once per week. Outside of this little creative bubble, my life has been extremely busy and quite stressful. So, this is my one time per week that I dedicate to just playing in the mud. It is my therapy. And I don't know where this weekly practice will take me, but I do know that taking this class was an extremely important decision for my future and for my overall well being. I've been intrigued by clay for a while now, but I didn't take my interest seriously until a series of vivid dreams came to me while I was sleeping. And I know this probably sounds woo woo and crazy, but it just felt so surreal and potent that I had to listen. And in each of these dreams, there was a spiritual mentor present. And along with that spiritual mentor, there was also this really strong divine presence, the kind of presence that made me recall and remember every single detail of the dream. And in each of these dreams, my mentor was introducing me to pottery. A few days after these dreams occurred, I saw an email pop up from a local art gallery offering a ceramics class at an affordable rate, and I just knew that I couldn't pass up the opportunity. There has been no shortage of stress and difficult decisions to make since I began the class, but one thing that is certain is that whatever tension and trouble I feel walking into the class is pretty quickly replaced with joy by the end of it. And this is the power of alchemy. This is the alchemy of creativity, but I've never felt it as strongly as I do with clay squished between my fingers. And the effects of this have started to ripple into my home. A cup of tea before bed feels more nourishing from my handmade mug. Blueberries from a handmade bowl taste more delicious, and I've even started to buy fresh flowers to place around my home, displayed in handmade vases. Some days, it's these little joys that remind me to keep going, that there is beauty to be witnessed and experienced here on earth, and that I have the ability to make it even more beautiful. So you might have noticed that my bowl was a little off center throughout this video. You can kind of see it wobbling around a little bit, and this just, speaks volumes to the importance of centering your clay. That's why I ended up with one side that was a little bit taller than the others, and I just used a sharp needle tool to kind of trim it and make it all the same height. I was joking with some of the other students in the class that you sit down at the wheel with the intention, I think as a beginner at least, you sit down on the wheel with the intention of like, "Oh, I'm gonna make a mug." And then you're like, "And it's a bowl." You're like, "Okay, I'm gonna make a vase." And it's a bowl. And everything just ends up being a bowl. But, I think this is just part of the learning process. And I'm really happy with some of the pieces that I've made so far, but I've also made a lot of crappy pieces and had a lot of pieces fall apart on the wheel, and you'll kind of get to witness that with this next piece that I'm making. I'll speed up through some of the process of centering the clay since I showed that quite a bit in the last with the last bowl. I wanted to try something really outside of my skill level and really outside of my comfort zone, because that's how you learn. And like I said, this class is really just an opportunity for me to play. And so I allow myself to do that, and I allow myself to go into something fully with the expectation that it's not going to work out, and that it's going to fall apart just because I enjoy the process and I like learning and seeing what is possible and learning how I can do something better the next time. So in this video here, I'm attempting to make a donut vase, which is kind of just what it sounds like. It's a vase in the shape of a donut. I saw a video on YouTube of another potter making a donut vase, and I thought it was really cool. And so I was like, I'm gonna attempt that. And I'm honestly kind of surprised by how far I was able to get with this, but I definitely did struggle towards the end. I really wasn't sure how to take the long tall piece and like fold it over to make the donut shape. But I think maybe next time, if I make the outer wall a little bit taller, that would be easier. I have some ideas, so I'm gonna try that next time. And this is where I really started to kind of struggle. I was really unsure of how to bend the clay without breaking it to attach it to the bottom piece. And like I said, I have some ideas for next time, but I think it got too wet and too thin for me to continue manipulating it. So yeah, this is where I decide that it's not gonna work out. We're just gonna cut this bottom piece off and see if I can do anything with the top piece. But ultimately, that top piece ends up being too thin as well, and it just kind of collapses on itself. So, such is the learning process. That's how it goes. I was pretty upset because after I attempted to make this, I make one more bowl and then my battery starts to die on my camera, so I turn it off, and as soon as I turn it off, I make the most beautiful, most incredible piece I have ever made on the wheel, and I will have to show it to you guys next time. I didn't get an opportunity to snap a photo of it or anything, um, but I'll try to remember to show it to you guys. At this point, I know this piece is a goner, so I just start kind of playing with it, manipulating it before I take it off the wheel completely. And I decided to make just one more bowl to redeem myself from my previous failure. These are some other older pieces that I had let air dry for a little while. So they're bone dry and they are about to go into the kiln to be bisque fired. And here's some pieces that I glazed. So I'll show you guys what those look like in just a little bit once they come out. After these pieces were bisque fired, I did some underpainting and glazing on them, just kind of playing and experimenting, not really taking this process too seriously, just allowing myself to play and see what happens. And I've really enjoyed clay and pottery, I think, for this reason. I really allowed myself to be a beginner, and I'm still allowing myself to be a beginner, which is a little bit different than how I approach my paintings because I've been painting for so long now that I expect more of myself, and it feels a lot more difficult to let go in the same way, and to allow myself to play as much because I do expect things to reach a certain caliber of skill, and to be able to achieve the vision that I set out with. And I absolutely still love my painting process. But I think that where I'm at in my life with so much stress and pressure coming from outside, it has felt pretty challenging to paint. And I've struggled with that a little bit, but I'm accepting it. And I'm also accepting, that life has these different stages, and I will come back to my paintings and I will dive into that again. Um, I feel a little bit guilty, I guess, about letting these large paintings sit in my studio for so long untouched. But I think that what's more important with the creative process is that I'm enjoying it and that I'm not forcing it. And I think that that's something that happens when you start to take your art more seriously, or when you start to try and make money from art, is that it does change your relationship with it, where it's no longer something that you do just because you enjoy it, but it's something that you do with a little bit of expectation. And I want to work on that with my paintings. I don't want to have so much expectation from it, but I do want to push myself to do better and to be better. And I think that going into it with the energy and the intention of being a professional in the field has pushed me to do better and to present myself in a more professional way and to make my paintings more polished. And so I think that, it has its pros and cons, and I'm really grateful for that. But I also think that if you're going to take it seriously, that you need to also still have a creative outlet that allows you to play without inhibition and to make space with that in your painting process if that's what you do, or if you're selling your pottery, then to allow space within your pottery practice to just play. With these pieces, I am just adding glaze instead of doing an underglaze like I did on the previous piece. I've been enjoying the process of layering different glazes, so I'll do like one coat of one color and then layer a different color or type of glaze on top and just seeing how it comes out. I love the variations and the kind of surprise element of layering glazes where you don't know exactly what you're going to get when it comes out of the kiln. The piece that I'm glazing here, it came out a little bit smaller than I had originally intended, but it's actually a sponge dish that you can hang on the edge of your sink and then let the water run out so it doesn't get all goopy and weird. I should have made the back edge a little bit taller so that it would sit at a tilt, but I think that it's a good prototype, and I'll probably make another one with the same or a similar design. And these are the finished products of some of the pieces that I shared earlier after they've been glazed and fired. So I have this mug, I have this plant potter that I made for my friends who are getting married soon, this fun yellow bowl, soap dish, a vase, and this little funky doodad that I will probably maybe someday make into a little candle.